Welcome to another tutorial of the thermal system design class. In this class, in this tutorial, we're gonna take a look into the other modules of the geometry that we have. We're inside of ANSYS Fluent in the design modeler, and we already know simple features. For example, we know that we can create a new sketch, and if we go to look at, let's say for example, a simple rectangle, or it can be a rectangle, it can be a circle. Let's create a rectangle. And we go to extrude. It tells us to select the geometry. We're selecting the rectangle. We add frozen. We can select the direction, either normal, the symmetric, and we'll select how much of the extrusion we want, and we just generate it. So if we do, that's what we're getting. This is very similar to the domains that we were working with. So there's a very cool feature right here on your left corner, left upper corner, that it says start over. So whenever if you mess up your geometry, or just simply you're trying things out, you can always start over on with this button. You don't have to close ANSYS completely and not save in order to start from the beginning. So let's take, for example, we have another sketch. We go to look at it. Let's create a circle this time. So let's say, for example, that we create a circle, but instead of extruding, we want to revolve. So if we revolve, it's gonna tell us again to select our geometry. We're gonna select the circle that we just made, the axis. Let's say, for example, that we select the x-axis, apply, we add material or add frozen, whichever you want, and we generate it. So we get this type of elliptical form whenever we do a revolve. Another cool feature, let's say that you're working with revolve, we generate a new sketch again. Let's go to circle. We draw this circle, and let's draw a line, straight line, not necessarily on top of our x-axis, but parallel to the x-axis. So if we revolve again, we can select the geometry that we want, but this time we're selecting this as our primary axis. So what it would give us, it would increase the diameter on the inner diameter of this elliptical form, and that's a pretty cool feature depending on what you're working with. And also you can change the angle in which you want this revolve to happen. For example, let's cut it to 180. It's gonna ask you to generate it again, and this is what you would get. Let's say, for example, that we just have a 90 degree. We generate it again, and this will be our solution. Another cool feature, if we go here to create, let's say, for example, that you're working with a heat exchanger with multiple pipes, which more likely you're going to work with in this class. So let's say, for example, that we take this tubing-like figure, and we want it to be like in a pattern. So we select the pattern, and it's going to ask you the geometry that you want to select. Right here on your toolbox, it tells you different things that you can select. You can either select the edge, you can select some faces, or you can select an entire body. So for example, if I go to that, it's gonna just give me the faces. and here is gonna give me the entire body. If I go to this one, it's just giving me the edges. But let's select the body for now. So when you create a pattern, you can select the type of pattern that you want. It can be either circular, rectangular, or linear. Let's select the linear for now. We select the geometry, we apply it, and we select the direction in which we want the pattern to happen. So we select this, we apply it. The offset, this is how much separation it's going to have. Let's say that's 4.5 inches, just to say something, and we want 5 copies of these two. After you generate it, it's going to give you something similar to this. So this is a very cool feature if you're working with multiple bodies, and if you want it, in order for you to not have to create multiple sketches, you can create your pattern just from using this feature. Let's say, for example, that instead of a linear, we wanted a circular pattern. So we go to sketch, we look at it, select just circle, we revolve it, same thing. Let's just select the x-axis for now. We add frozen, we want just a 90-degree, generate it. We go to create a pattern. Let's make it a circle. The geometry that we want is this one, and the axis, let's make it on the x-axis as well. Generate. We didn't select how many copies we want. Let's say 5. Generate it again. So you will get this weird figure if we do it like that. Say just 3. So you get the idea. So these are some of the features some extra features that you can have. Another one that can save you some time is that if you go to create and you go all the way to the bottom, it tells you these primitives. Let's say, for example, a sphere. So it's gonna give you already some pre-made 3D models. So in this case, if we create a sphere, it's gonna ask us for the origin in which we want our sphere to go, and it's gonna ask you for the radius. Let's say, for example, we want a 20 radius sphere. Let's just generate because we want it on the origin, and we would get a simple sphere. So something pretty cool. Let's say, for example, that we want to create a box. Same thing. It's gonna ask you for if you want it to be at the center or the coordinates that you want it to be. It's gonna ask you for the different. In this case, by default, it's giving you 12 inches. So it's gonna ask you for that. Let's just leave it at the default. Which let's create the box, and this is what we would get. This is pretty cool because let's say, for example, that we're trying to create a sphere, and we want a domain to simulate the fluent on that sphere. Let's take, for example, the same sphere, but in this case we'll make it 5 inches radius or a 10-inch diameter. Let's generate it, and let's create a box. So this is what the box would look like. Let's say that the box, we want it to be like a 20-inch on the X direction, 20-inch on the Y direction, and a 50-inch on the C direction. So let's generate it. This is what we're getting. So something that we did not did here is that this box we added as a material instead of at frozen. So let me change that. Generate it. There we go. We have two different materials. Let's do the same thing with the sphere. Let's generate it. And we have two materials that are interacting with each other. So you cannot see it from here, but for example, if we just made it like that, so it's creating the box from the origin, but it's the sphere is not actually inside of the domain. So let's change things just a little bit. So we can see that if we want this sphere to be more in the middle, that the box has to travel on the negative y, the negative c, and the negative x direction in order to put this sphere in the on the middle. So let's take the box for example. We can go back and we can change the coordinates. So we want it to be, let's say, negative 20, negative 10, and negative 10 also on the y, and a negative 25 inches on the C. We generate again. We can check again if it's on the middle now. So it seems to be where we want it. So this will save some time, especially if you have very complicated geometries, to just create the box inside of the, if you know the coordinates, just create the box so you can simulate this. Other features that we can see here on ANSYS Fluent, we already have covered this, but if you want to generate a sketch, a new sketch, you go to look at, so it gives us the concepts. It says, if we go to concepts, we have the option that says surfaces from sketches. So we've done this with the 2D simulations. So basically we can create a surface from the sketch. We can even change the thickness of the surface. Let's make it a 10 just so it can be a little more visible. So it's not very visible, but this is the idea. So there's more features that you can run through. You can make a sweep instead of a revolve. It's something very similar, but it's gonna run in a different direction. Skin loft. We can thin surfaces. We can fix the ratios. We have body transformations. We can move our bodies, translate it. We can mirror our bodies. We can slice our bodies. If we go to concepts, we have split edges. We can make cross sections predetermined. If we go to tools, we have different features as well. We can face split. Target face, tool geometry. I don't think that we can make it from the sketch that we have, but it's one of the features that we have. We can run a symmetry if we want two bodies to be symmetric. If we have a hole that we want to fill in on a body, we can fill it with fill. We can repair hard edges. We can repair edges, repair holes. We have our different options from our system. The things that you want to see on your toolbar, or the things that you don't want to see. If you want to change this, let's say that you're using patterns in a same problem, multiple times, you'll select yes then, and so you can access it more freely instead of going through the top menu. And these many features that you can actually perform. Let's say, for example, that you're working with a very complicated problem as well. So, so instead of creating the geometry yourself, you can create the geometry from a script. This is for when you're programming more complex problems that you have the code for it. So that's something that you can run through as well. So that's basically some of the extra features for the geometry inside of ANSYS. So from now on, the tutorials are going to focus more on the meshing, on the different meshing methods, and what is a good mesh or what is not. And thank you very much for tuning in to this tutorial.